Hi, I'm Rick Snyder. We've talked about this forever. Pizza and pigskin tours, where we eat pizza, we walk around, see a little bit of historical sites and all that. Well, it's finally happening. You can go to my website, monumentalthoughts.com, and see where, how you can get tickets. The tickets do include the price of pizza and non-alcoholic drinks. Pay for your own beer. But we're going to walk around Georgetown, 20, 30 minutes. I'm going to show you a lot of cool stuff. Then we're just going to sit and talk and eat pizza and whatever you want to ask, I'll talk about, as long as they don't get me in court. So make sure you come and see the pizza and pigskin tours at monumentalthoughts.com, and I'll be eating pizza with you soon.
Everybody, and welcome to the Hogsty. Steve and I are doing double duty because I had to help him with It's Just Business, which you'll hear later this week. So look forward to that if you're one of our frequent listeners who listens to every little thing we put out there. But this is the Hogsty, and I'm, of course, going to be joined by Steve and Jamal here. Guys, I hope you've had a good week. It's the, worst part of summer. It's hot, and there's not much football news going on. I hate this time of year.
That's funny. Me and Steve took a deep breath. We about to talk, and then we both just stopped.
You both kind of just had the same face.
Yeah, it's a weird time of the year, but I guess the good thing now, at least for me, 'cause I don't know about you, or the good thing for me right now is that we're still dealing with the NBA Finals, so it's something that's holding me over. And Wednesday was an amazing Game 4, like incredible. Storylines. It also pointed to the fact that the game. A lot of people think that the NBA is rigged for one reason, and they put that on display too. Like with Devin Booker and stuff. If you were watching the game, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it was incredible. He should have had like 8 fouls, and 3 of them he should have been fouled out a long time before the game was over, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a weird time of the year, yes, but thankfully I have the NBA. But when the NBA ends, hopefully we're in training camp. So I'm doing all right.
I made a conscious decision to give up the NBA, so I'm not an NBA fan anymore. But I have baseball was what's holding me tied me over. Now this week was the baseball.
Yeah, we did have the All-Star game.
And so that killed. that was the weekend, but we had a couple days there without any baseball at all. So it was a little bit sparse this week. From a sports perspective.
Yeah, it was. This is always one of those weird times of year where there's there's a lull after the All-Star game. The number of major sports that's on just thins out a little bit.
Unless you count soccer as a sport, which I don't.
Yeah. And even though I do count it as a sport, I didn't watch any of the Euro stuff. I can only get behind a team if I have some kind of a tie to it. And, there's nothing in Europe or what is the Central American one that I really have ties to.
For me, soccer is just very, very boring. That's all.
Yeah, I know. For a lot of people in America, I think we all feel that way. Well, anyway, we do have some topics to talk about this week with the football team, which is exciting. Last week, we were talking big picture, and I've kind of mentioned they need to get moving on the name change stuff. Like, it seems like nothing had been going on. And sure enough, like Jason Wright is secretly listening to us before we even released the podcast, they announced a couple different changes that are a couple determinations, I should say, in terms of the Washington name change.
He's got bugs in the computers. He's listening to what we're saying.
Right. I would not be shocked by that, So the big announcement I think that people flipped out about a little bit was Jason Wright came out and said that the name is definitely not going to be Warriors. He basically, we have this like Santa Claus list, just a big roll of paper with all the different name options, and he finally crossed one off the list because according to him, and Steve, I think you just read the quote, so correct me if I'm wrong, they've talked to Native American groups. They felt like Warriors still is too closely associated with Native Americans, and they're trying to move away from that in terms of team imagery. Those were his reasons.
That's the gist of it. I'm trying to phrase what I'm about to say carefully. This is the first thing that Jason Wright has done that I have vehemently disagreed with. Now, I've made it clear on this show for a long time that I don't really want any of these names. I really want Reds.
Right, you weren't going to be happy no matter what.
No, I'm not. I want Redskins, and I really probably am not going to support any of these other names. But what bothered me was the rationale behind eliminating Warriors. I am sick to death of the direction society has gone today with regard to this political correctness and wokeness, whatever you want to call it. There's nothing wrong with Warriors. Nobody has a problem with the Golden State Warriors, for example. There's nothing wrong with Warriors, and if two people out there are offended, so what? Don't watch, don't support the team. You're never going to make anybody happy in today's climate, and it's high time people stop trying to make everybody happy. It's just ridiculous, and it's harming society. And so I think this is a case of the leadership of Washington going way too far with this. There's no good reason to eliminate Warriors. That's just stupid. And so while I don't support any of these names necessarily, I really, really just strongly disliked Jason's statement, and I strongly disliked his rationale for eliminating that name.
Well, I think I personally, when it came out, it made complete sense to me. When he said, no, let me restart. It made sense to me, but like in my head, I'm like, you mean to tell me this entire time we were talking about Warriors and we didn't think about the implications and ties that it brings back towards the Native American side? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this entire time we knew that, but we were trying to find something close to the name. So I'm like, it should have never been considered in the first place. But we were all thinking about how Warriors can be away from, Redskins name, but we can still have some sense of nostalgia or back to what we know. But with that being said, it makes sense to me. Get rid of it. You eliminate it. It was among his top choices. He stated that. And then when you start to do your research, when you start to collect your data, your information, you talk to people, all this stuff like that, and you realize, okay, this is something that just can't stay around. And I'm fine with that. When you break down the Warriors in a sense of how it ties into Native Americans, it was somebody who called on a radio station who did their own research, a local radio station who did their own research by going to what are they called? Oh my goodness. He went to go visit Native Americans. I'll put it that way.
A reservation.
Reservations. Oh my God. He went to go visit reservations.
I was wondering, were you he went to a school? He went to Wikipedia? What? Where was he going?
I was struggling. But he went to reservations, and he talked to people. And the ironic thing from his information that he collected was that the people that he talked to, most of them were cool with the Redskins name, but they weren't cool with Warriors. Like this is kind of how it was with the people that he talked to. Warriors had like a deeper meaning with the Native Americans, and I can't explain it as good as he could have, but he broke it down when he spoke. I can't do it as good as him. But Warriors have a deeper meaning to Native Americans, and it would be more offensive if they transition to that name. So my point was, Jason Wright doing his research, and not just him. It's other people involved in this process, but the people who were responsible for this branding, this new brand, and all that type of stuff. Odds are they came across that same information when they did their research, so they know they're aware of these things and stuff like that. So it's like, who am I to contest that? And again, it all made sense when he put out the president's brief that Warriors is just too close and it's not that good for business, especially if you're going to transition to a whole, you want to get away with the Native American imagery, the theme, all that stuff. Why would you go to Warriors?
Yeah, I mean, look, somebody else wrote this on Twitter. When you looked at the fans' reaction, you can also understand why they wanted to get away from it, because if they really do want to get away from Native American imagery, you saw the dudes who are clearly the fat white dudes, even if they're the warriors, they're going to come in wearing headdresses and war paint, and doesn't matter if you say warriors and it's military themed. It was like the whole, wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of thing that they're trying to get away from. Now, I have a different conspiracy theory when it comes to why they might.
I intentionally asked Alice not to tell me because it's going to be wacky and crazy. I wanted to get my reaction live on the air with this.
So, we know that a big reason it's taken them this long is because of the copyright question.
No, it's not a copyright. It's a trademark question. There's a legal
trademark question. Yes. The name Warriors, Dan Snyder had the trademark for a long time, and then he screwed up like Dan Snyder does, and in 2013, he let it go, and it was purchased by somebody else. It wasn't our guy who Steve talks to. It was I looked it up. The name is Don Terry and Carol Glass.
There's 3 or 4 or 5 of these guys who have claims in all these names. Our guy that I talked to is one of them. He's got the most, but there's others that have them.
Yes, yeah. But Warriors is owned by these 2 people right now. I'm guessing they've reached out to some of these folks behind the scenes, and they were probably asking some absorbent amount of money for Warriors. And we know Dan Snyder's a cheapskate. He's not going to say, all right, here's $10 million, go away, or whatever it is. I think that's why they actually are going away from Warriors. They probably just thought the juice isn't worth the squeeze to try and get that trademark right away from these folks. But you don't want to say that to fans, because that just makes you seem like an ass and a cheapskate, and why not? All right, let's blame it on something else.
It wasn't as wacky a conspiracy as I thought. I'm kind of disappointed, I got to be honest, Alex. But I don't agree with you, and the reason why is I've looked at all these trademark issues. All of them are owned by somebody, okay? They're not going to find a name that isn't already owned by one of these guys. Our guy, Macaulay, alone, has got like 20 of them.
Right.
Everybody
we
has.
know from talking to him, he's just asking for donations to charities.
Well,
right?
That's what he says. But but they have the Washington leadership hasn't even responded to that demand. So they're not going to find a name that isn't owned by somebody that they're not going to have to deal with or just file a lawsuit to get rid of it. So I hear what you're saying, and I do agree that Dan's a cheapskate and all that, but I don't know if that's necessarily the factor because they're going to have to deal with it for whatever name they pick.
Yeah, they are, but the level of difficulty might be higher with some.
But they haven't responded to even Macaulay's offer to have it for free, and they haven't even responded to it.
Yeah, but Macaulay also has a lot of terrible names he's copying.
My point is that, yes, he does, for sure does, but they're covering all the bases, so I think no matter what name they pick, this is going to be an issue. And while I understand what you're saying, I guess I'm not on board with that particular conspiracy theory.
Well, that's my theory, is they probably just don't want to dealing with these trademark and all that stuff as little as possible anyway.
Well, it sounds like we have 3 different views of the issue. Jamal and I have opposing views, and Alex is sort of in the middle, I guess, on it. I'm just sick and tired of all of the way all this stuff is going today. I just think we have to stop chasing the dragon of political correctness here, and we'd all be better off. And you're never going to make everybody happy, and we should stop trying. That's my view of things.
I agree. No matter what they pick, you're going to have a majority of people annoyed by it. But I've said this before. There's very few sports team names in this city that I actually have liked on first hearing them. Hated Nationals. I wanted them to go with Senators or Grays. Everyone's still pissed off that the Wizards are not the Bullets, and I'm included in that group.
That was.
Yeah. When I think about all the minor league teams, I thought Valor was tacky. I think Defenders was tacky. The Capitals is the only one that's half decent, in terms of a local sports team. Like, look, I don't like most sports team names. I don't, but you get over it. You root for the team.
And the thing is, when you think about it, Nats, Caps, Wiz, all that stuff is it eventually, when you have that shortened nickname too, it all becomes second nature to you, and you're just used to it. I think the thing with the political correctness thing is simply, I get what you're saying, But I think it's simply doing away from one thing. And once you're done with that one thing, it doesn't matter what you name it. You can name it, just for example, from the polls, you can name it the generals, the defenders, the brigade, all that stuff. It don't matter what you name it. You just got away from the one thing that caused all the trouble. That's that, or all the issues. I wouldn't say trouble, it just caused all the issues. You're just getting away from that. But there's one thing that I did want to say that he brought up that I do think will cause an issue. And I wanted to bring this up on the live stream, but this is also this is a good area. Jason said he didn't say this was going to happen, but it was a question that was raised where like the old memorabilia, all the Redskins jerseys, the hats, all the whatever you had, merchandise, anything like that. There was a question on if he was going to allow that into the stadiums and the like all the facilities that Washington like has or whatever, and he wasn't certain that he wasn't certain that he would allow it. They didn't say that it wasn't going to like be accepted or whatever, or that they were going to ban people, or that they would let them in. He just wasn't convinced one way or another. I will say, if you start to restrict a fan base from bringing in the old stuff that they loved from the years past prior to 2020, and if you start telling people they can't bring that shit into wherever it is that you're, hosting skins events or even just the games itself, that right there, that is a problem. And that will be a problem, and that is going to hurt your fan base even more. So that's the one thing I would say when it comes to this name change stuff or branding stuff. You cannot disallow people to bring in their old stuff that they love and that they love about this team.
Absolutely. I think everyone would be in agreement with that. First off, it would be almost impossible to enforce on 80,000 people. Like, what are you going to do? All right, you're wearing a Sean Taylor jersey, get out? That's not going to happen. It's physically impossible to do that. I could see saying no more headdresses, things like that. We know the Kansas City Chiefs have gone that direction already, in asking fans to stop dressing up like Indians. And that's part of why they want to go away from Native American imagery, because that's been a problem. That particular thing, a headdress.
I'm so glad you brought this up, Jamal, because I meant to bring this up, and so I'm glad you did. That was the worst part of a horrible statement. And I can just tell you, I'm not wearing anything but my old Redskin jerseys to these games, or sure, Redskin paraphernalia or whatever. To the extent I go to games.
Yeah, you're not a jersey guy.
Not
right?
really, no. But like my general rule in jerseys is I'll wear jerseys of players of my generation or older, but I'm not wearing the jersey of a 25-year-old. I'm just not. Like I have a Darryl Green jersey. I'm not afraid to wear that to a Redskins game, for example. But point is, I'm just not doing it, and that's you're going to lose fans. I'm just not going to go, and I think that's how dare you tell me what to wear? Don't tell me what to wear. That's none of your damn business. I'll wear anything I want that's within the scope of, local ordinances. And you're not going to tell me any of that. And I just won't do it, and I won't support it. You're lucky I'm going to support this team as it is. Because I'm telling you, I'm not from D.C. I lived in D.C. 3 separate times. But I'm a military guy at heart. And I support this team just because of my memories of me going to games with my dad. That's why I'm a fan. And if you change everything around and make it this like the Washington Sentinels or whatever, and you tell me I can't wear Redskins, I'm just not going to be a fan anymore. And you might find me not doing this show anymore. So, be as PC as you want, Jason, but just understand that you're going to lose fans because of all this nonsense, and me included.
Yeah, I don't think they could enforce that. It's going to be too difficult. People have complained about them trying to enforce that against people wearing opposing jerseys.
That's
and stuff.
crazy.
And there's rules against. Yeah, you can't do
it.
Like I said, I think you could get away with, hey, no more dressing up like an Indian.
But even that, do what you want. Being offensive is okay. Okay? I wouldn't personally wear a headdress and all that stuff. But it's fine. This is what the country's about. It's okay to be offensive in this country. And you may have to live with the consequences of it. Your employer
Right.
may not like it. Your neighbors might not like it. Your family may not like it. But the fundamental nature of this country is that you're allowed to express yourself, and I'm not sure a football team should try to inhibit that just because they're trying to be politically correct.
Well, I'm just telling you, we know the Chiefs are going that direction already.
And I just disagree with all of it. Again, be as offensive as you want. That's fundamental to this country. You don't have to like it, and you don't have to agree with it, but do it if you want.
Yeah. The other part about this that I will point out is I've heard from people who have been in that fan ambassadorship thing, like when they're going to those events, they're asked either wear current team gear or, dress professionally, not past gear.
See, that's a flat out no to me. I'd probably have to resign from the fan thing if they told me that.
Sure. Well, I think most of them have kind of just gone along with it because they want the notoriety of being a fan ambassador or whatever that notoriety
I'm assuming
really
the
is.
fan ambassadors are probably the ones with the biggest followers on Twitter. Would be my guess. Is who they pick.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
No.
They kind of actually dispersed it out when they were people were announcing that they got the call and were scheduled to be an interview and stuff like that. A lot of people shared. So I looked around. It wasn't all like huge followings. Some people had less followers than me. I got like 850. And it's people with less followers than me that got the call too. So it's just people it's just random fans. I don't think it's random, but they probably found them.
No,
I don't know
it wasn't
how.
random.
It's definitely not random.
I don't know how they found them, but they reached out and did that. So it's not all large followings.
For me, I just have to resign from that. I'm just not going to go along with it.
Well, I mean, I wasn't surprised when I heard that. If they're trying to re-image themselves, from an imaging perspective, I totally get that. Well, let's talk about the next thing because I think it ties into this whole, not necessarily the name change, but rebranding the team concept. That is that Mike Silver, who's a sports writer and with NFL Network, I believe he's with right now.
I think so, yeah.
And he's worked for SI, Yahoo. He's been around the block. He's now going to start writing stuff for the team and being involved in things like preseason, stuff like that. And he put this all out there. Apparently, he's got some history of beefs with Washington fans, which is interesting. I didn't know about that. I don't follow social media beefs very much.
I
but
hate Mike Silver. Behind Mike Florio, he's the worst in sports media. He's a conceited, thin-skinned little punk, and I'm greatly disappointed that he's with this team. I don't want him on this show. If you guys want to interview him, I'm skipping that interview. I want absolutely nothing to do with Mike Silver. He's going to bring nothing to this team at all, and I'm bitterly disappointed that they've hired him. So there you go. Welcome, Redskins or Washington.
Well, fortunately
I'm
for
looking
me,
up
I don't have an
his-
opinion on him, so
Yeah,
I'm neutral.
I've got no opinion on a guy like Mike
horrible. He's
Silver. Like, I don't have a file
And
on him.
he is a guy, and I'm not on Twitter, but he's blocked a whole bunch of people because he says his enormous ego and thin skin can't take any criticism at all. So he's one of these guys, if you say, you have a hair out of place, he's going to block you. He's one of those guys. And I did see that he said he will,
he's going to consider going and unblocking all the
because he's
Washington
blocked
fans or something
everybody.
like.
He's just the worst. He's terrible. I don't know what Ron Rivera was thinking by bringing in such a guy like this.
Well, apparently these two, the reason he's here is because he and Ron have been friends forever. They both went to, grew up in California, or I think they both went to college together.
Silver is a UC Berkeley grad, which also doesn't make me happy. But yeah, Silver is a California kid. I don't know where Rivera grew up.
Yeah, I think he and Ron kind of knew each other from college, and that's kind of how, why he's here, is he's been friends with Rivera forever. And so I guess the question will be, we know he's writing for the team, for whatever that's worth. I don't think that's the biggest thing. To me, that's not a big deal. I don't care who writes for the team blog,
You just don't read it. If you don't like it, don't read it. It's simple.
Yeah, exactly. But this idea that he might be involved in preseason is interesting. I wonder if that means they're going to have him replace Kenny Albert, or is he going to be doing sideline stuff? I don't know.
By the way,
for
the record, Rivera, I'd forgotten, was a UC Berkeley grad, and so he clearly knew Silver through Berkeley one way or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're Cal guys. And looking at Silver's bio now, he's written a couple books. He wrote a book with Kurt Warner. He wrote a bio on Jerry Rice with Jerry Rice, Dennis Rodman. So that's kind of he's definitely a writer more than anything else.
He was always
I
a
think.
writer. I didn't know he was even in television production. Look, I mean, if he's involved in the preseason games, I'll just have to suck up having to look at him for 4 weeks, and there 3 weeks rather, and then I don't ever have to read him again.
I mean, look, when it comes to preseason,
with
honestly,
the storytelling, so whatever that entails.
yeah.
Well, this is a classic case of, like, I don't like the guy. I've made that abundantly clear. I don't have to read him. I'm not going to complain about him. I mean, I don't have to read him, and I won't read him, and that's the end of it. If you don't like something, just ignore it. That's where I come in this.
Right. I mean, look, no one liked Larry Michael for the most
I didn't
part,
have a problem
and we just
with
ignored
him.
him.
I know you really disliked him, Alex, but I mean, you didn't have to.
I'm talking, in the whole DC region, he was
Really?
he was never liked. Yeah. And I think that's true for a lot of this. Like, did anyone really care that Kenny Albert was always doing the Redskins preseason games?
No, not one way or the other.
No. Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't care who that guy is. You just want to watch the game.
The truth of the matter is, I could probably do without any talking during the game.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't hurt to have someone say, "Here's the down and distance." Like, that's helpful.
If we could just have Tony Romo guess every play ahead of time, that'd be the only voice I really need.
Yeah. I was listening to somebody, and they were saying that, like, really, that's not that special.
Well, Jay Gruden was the one that said it.
That's right. That's right.
Tony Romo not that special?
Yeah, Gruden. They interviewed Jay Gruden about this, and he said, "I don't know why Tony Romo's getting so much credit, for this. I could guess every play, and he's not even getting them all right." And he's and I'm sure Jay's probably right. Jay knows more about football than all of us put together, by a magnitude of 10, and he probably could guess every play,
Right.
But Jay was the one that called Romo out for that.
Yeah, that's right. He was saying basically anyone who's coached or played quarterback could do what Tony Romo does.
Yeah.
In predicting where the play's going.
I'm about to say that's unfortunate from Gruden. But the guy Tony knows his shit, man. I love watching a Tony Romo and I forgot the other guy's name, but they both really
They're good.
So.
Oh, by the way, speaking of media, the other bit of news was that I guess Fox interviewed, I think it was Fox, Mark Sanchez, Jay Gruden, Robert Griffin, and
and Alex Smith.
Yeah, and Alex Smith, and Sanchez is the one that got the job.
Yeah. In the long lines of why is Mark Sanchez getting this job?
He may be better
Sanchez
on
got
camera.
another job.
Maybe he's because I know, like Alex, for example, is a very subdued personality, and he might not have projected well on camera, And same, Jay is sort of quietly sarcastic, and maybe that didn't come across as well as Sanchez. And I don't know what to say about Robert Griffin, but I mean, I bet you Sanchez just presented best on camera out of all those guys.
Yeah, well, and he's a good-looking dude, from what I remember. Because doesn't he come from that like Cal or UCLA pretty boy school?
Yeah, he's a pretty boy
when it comes to quarterbacks.
Well, he came from USC, but
USC.
yes.
Yeah, USC.
Oh, that's
But
what it
yes,
is.
you're right.
Those Southern California, like the quarterbacks are all meant to be on TV, not great quarterbacks.
They're model quality, but it's just kind of funny that many players with Washington ties were up for this job, and of all the guys, Sanchez is the one that got it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Well,
he could have also just been the cheapest.
I was gonna say the that's funny listening to the cheapest part, but I was gonna say it also could be the case that what I'm saying Robert's entertaining, man, but he's had some things recently in social media that kind of Alex, you're on Twitter, so I don't know if I'm sure you may have seen it, but he's had some things on Twitter recently where it's like he could have talked himself out of a job. Man. He was doing some dumbass promotion, trying to promote his wife's training product or company or something like that, and he started this whole racial thing. That literally it was very stupid of him. And it caused unnecessary drama. And it was valid. But he tried to twist it into some promotion thing, and that kind of burned him.
It was a racial
and
thing.
Then it was,
what did he say?
So it was more so. So he was talking about how Lord, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago now, man. It was a lot.
I think I can tiptoe around it a little. Let's just say he was arguing with people about the fact that he's in an interracial marriage.
Oh,
I think that was part of it, and that's what started him talking about. Yeah, I have a white wife. There's not a big deal.
is that
The curves too. Like he was trying to say that his stereotypes that white women don't have curves and stuff like that.
Right.
Knowing his background and stuff, he's like, all we've known him to do is date white women, like in the public light. So like that stuff that he was putting out there, it was much more like, because it was also the things that he was replying to. So it kind of just got him warped up into some social media firestorm. That was the first thing, and then there was something else after that that kind of got him in trouble too. So it's like, the stuff that you said after you applied for or tried out for these positions is like, man, the timing of that is so terrible. Like you could have got yourself a decent job, and truth be told, he may still have one, but for that to happen immediately after the news broke that you were trying out for these things, like why would they go for you when they?
He was also posting some weird videos and pictures of him and his wife together.
Oh yeah. That was part of the promo. Yep. Yep.
And
I think that was it. Matter of fact, that was the two things I was thinking of.
There was like a picture of his wife working out, or a video of his wife working out that was, I wouldn't say inappropriate, but very objectifying.
He was showing off his wife. He was showing off his wife. That was the two things. It was that the video came first, and then it was a tweet that came second. Where he was talking about white women not having curves and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's interesting because, I mean, first of all, if anybody's criticizing anybody for marrying someone else, that's, you guys need to get a life. Who cares who he marries, white, black,
no one
whatever.
cares about interracial
Somebody
marriage
does,
anymore.
but that's just dumb. But it
1950s.
sounds to me like Robert Griffin, it could be viewed as a wild card. You're going to say something stupid. We don't really want that on a network because you're going to put out crazy things.
I think we all know Robert Griffin's a little bit off.
I think it's less off, and it's more that he has an enormous ego. I don't know why. If I was a celebrity, I wouldn't respond to anybody at all on social media. Zero. I don't know why anybody in the public eye feels the need to dive into the dumpster with the trash. Crazy. Like I saw Simon Cowell. I watched. Where did I see this on? I watched an episode of whatever that variety show he does. What's it called? America's Got Talent.
I don't even know. Is it So You Think You Can Dance?
America's Got Talent. I saw that, and on there he said, "Yeah, I don't respond. I don't even look at any of that trash." And Simon Cowell's a whole nother level of egomaniac, But he's absolutely right.
But Simon Cowell's also 60, not 30.
Yeah, okay, but regardless, he's absolutely right. Why? Just don't look. Oh, God, that's just dumb. Why would Robert Griffin care at all what somebody says about his marriage? He's some rando on Twitter. It's
literally, that was literally it. What was the point of you even saying that? Like, just let it go. You don't have to talk to everybody or even act like you've seen things. Like, let it go, bro. They don't know you. You don't know them.
Exactly. I mean, Jesus. So maybe the network sees him as this, what in the hell is Robert Griffin going to say? Crazy.
Right. I think there's that. I mean, people loved when he kind of came after Kirk Cousins at first. You remember that, towards the end of the season?
Or, some interview with whatever sports station he was with.
Yeah, and he was trashing Kirk. And let's be honest. Yeah, it makes for good fodder off the bat. And, TV networks might like that. But if you're thinking big picture, it was so transparently petty bitterness that Kirk outplayed you. Like, he wasn't criticizing Kirk Cousins as an actual quarterback. It was clearly just a personal beef, and he's putting that out there. That is something that networks don't want. At least not that transparent. So, I think, well, that might have looked good at first. Big picture, not a positive to act that way.
So if you analyze this in 10 seconds or less, you say, we've already hit Griffin. Wild card, may say something nutty. Yep. Alex Smith, not a ton of personality on camera. Jay Gruden, way too subtle and sarcastic.
Jay Gruden also, I don't think, has a high enough Q rating for them.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe not.
okay, you were the coach for the Redskins for what, 6 years, but that's your zenith. That's not really enough to get you on.
Whereas Sanchez,
broadcasts.
good-looking dude from California, presents well, never says anything
Right.
controversial. Had that whole butt fumble thing, and he's never let it become a problem. You know, so maybe
Hey,
he's
look
the
at Dan
right one.
Orlovsky. He made fun of stepping out of bounds for a safety. It's in his
Yeah.
Twitter
Yeah.
profile.
And he laughs at himself about that sometimes. You know, Orlovsky. So maybe that is all right. Maybe they actually do know what they're doing.
I think that those are probably all pretty accurate as to what's going on here. You know, like Jay Gruden. Yeah, if you were doing an Arena Football League broadcast, maybe you get Jay Gruden, but you know, you don't need him for the NFL. You know. You know, it'll be interesting to see what happens with those guys. I know we didn't plan on talking about that. We were just talking about the whole Mike Silver thing.
We could either talk about that or me bash Mike Silver for another 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, well, since we were talking about a bunch of ex-skinned QBs, you guys saw the little thing with Dwayne Haskins, right?
No, what happened?
I'm sure Jamal heard about it, but
Yeah.
Haskins' wife, who was his girlfriend but very quickly became his wife for some reason, they got in some kind of domestic disturbance, and she knocked his tooth out,
my God.
supposedly.
Jesus. At least he was smart enough not to respond in kind.
Yes. They say he did not hit her back. But,
Wait, hold on a minute. Are you telling me that Dwayne Haskins got a tooth knocked out by his wife?
Yeah,
That's
that's
geez.
the story.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
And I think that whole thing is so confusing, and I just got to address one particular individual who kind of pissed me off. I ain't gonna lie to you. I didn't say too much. Like in the moment, I did respond back with the same energy, but the whole story is confusing, man. When I started, I read it yesterday morning. It happened like Thursday or maybe Wednesday, but I read it yesterday morning, and I was like, "Wait, you mean to tell me?" After reading it, I was like, "You mean to tell me this man announced his engagement after they were already married?" I'm like, who the hell? In my mind, I'm like, what the hell is going on? Who the hell
Say
does
what?
that?
What'd you just say?
He
They were also engaged and then married like in 10 seconds.
No, they were married already. That's the thing. They were already married. They married back in like March or something. But they recently announced their engagement. He recently announced their engagement like on Twitter, on Instagram or something like that. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like I've never heard of that before. But somebody responds to me in a sense because these are two different things. You tell me that let people do them because there are plenty of people out here who celebrate their wedding, who gets married and then celebrates later or have a ceremony later and all that type of stuff after the fact. And in my head, I'm like, fool, what the hell does that have to do with my question? That has nothing to do with engagements, announcing an engagement, but you're already married. Yes, people have ceremonies. People have an actual wedding after they already do the legal part. But that has nothing to do with being engaged and then, or announcing your engagement, but coming to find out y'all were already married. Secondly, they are renewing their vows. They only been married for a couple of months and they're renewing their vows. So,
well, every time you get a tooth knocked out, you got to renew your vows. That's a rule.
That's apparently the rules of their relationship. So I'm just so confused. I'm like, bruh, the mindset of some of these fans, because they're so quick to harp on or bounce on anybody that comes across as mocking or being negative towards Dwayne. And I'm like, in my head, does that even make sense to you? You're not even paying attention to what I'm saying. You're just harping on the fact that I said something about him, but you're not paying attention to what I actually said. Does that make sense to you? Like, I'm asking this in my head to him, like, fool, there's no way in hell you're upset at me because this fool announced an engagement and he's already married. If he celebrated the wedding and posted that out there after they were married, it will make sense. It's okay to do that.
Oh, I get
it. But you're announcing an engagement, some shit that I've never seen or heard before. If they do that before, okay, I take back what I said. But there's no way in hell somebody announcing an engagement and they already married.
Is this one of these things where he's living with this girl and they sort of call each other husband and wife, kind of common law marriage style maybe, and then they're
actually
engaged? But all of this is the most Dwayne Haskins thing ever. You
Yeah.
know,
It's very Haskinsy. It is.
it's also very beta,
Yes.
by the way. I wouldn't stay with the woman who knocked my tooth out. You'd be on the street
Yes.
today, you know.
Yeah.
Now he said he's pressing charges, but they didn't say anything about a divorce or anything.
He's
so-
pressing charges, but he's going to
and-
stay married, and he continues to be engaged.
Yeah.
And I emphasize the fact too, yeah, like he is the victim here. Like there's no cutting around that. Like there's no like he did get hit by his girl, his wife. Like that is the part that we all should be focusing on. But at the same time, like the details around the situation, it just has you leaving like a WTF. Like what? I'm not going like just WTF, bro.
I hate
It's
to
kinda
interrupt you
crazy
by
just
laughing
reading everything.
during what you're saying, but it's just, and this is, by the way, I'm assuming this is the same girl who brought the strippers to the party after that game last year or whatever.
I'm assuming if they've
Maybe.
been together long enough to get married, yeah, I would assume you don't marry unless it's a shotgun wedding. You ain't marrying her in 3 months.
Because
you know?
didn't he have a problem where it didn't, like, he was photographed with a bunch of strippers and this girl at some hotel or something after a game
Supposedly,
or something like that?
It's not clear if they were actually strippers or not. You know what they were.
Hey, well,
Yeah.
that picture made it look like it.
Man, it's like I'll
Yes.
take insane stories for 2,000, Alex.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm.
Jeez.
It is very Dwayne Haskinsy. You said it earlier, and Steve, yes, I give him credit in that if your girl hit you and you didn't hit her back, like that's good. Like it's never right to hit the woman back.
Well, yeah, because
But
you're gonna
you
get.
should end the relationship.
Yeah.
It's not a healthy relationship.
That's the most beta male thing I've ever heard. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of some wild stuff, but yeah. And that relationship, if anytime a relationship's abusive, whoever should end it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's not good.
I'm so glad you brought that. I hadn't heard about any of this. This has all been
Yeah.
on Twitter, right? I mean,
Well,
sheesh.
yeah, it's one of those weird, let's just check in with the former players.
Thank
just
God
to
that.
see
Thank
what the
God
hell-
Washington does not have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's even worse. Like after today, he had an incident where this man
There's more?
went into somebody's text messages, asking for $20,000 in gifts back that he sent Shorty.
What?
Yeah, he messaged some Instagram model. Apparently, he was dealing with $20,000. He asked for in return. Like he wanted a refund on his gifts that he gave her, and she screenshotted.
Wait, Haskins did this today?
Yeah, she screenshotted.
Oy.
When you get a chance, Alex, just go to my profile because I screenshotted. I mean, I talked about the tweet. But he screenshotted.
Oh, boy.
You're gonna make me get on
He got
Twitter.
screenshotted. He got screenshotted, and she put it on Instagram, and somebody covered it. So it's like, no matter what he does, like he just continues to take L's, and again, I'm emphasizing, like people who think this is bashing, this isn't bashing. Like if you think this man isn't putting this on himself, like these incidents, I'm sorry. Let me clarify. Those type of incidents, the stripper thing, the sending text messages to the people asking for money back, not the domestic violence. I'm not talking about that. He didn't put himself in that situation. That happened to him from somebody who should never put hands on him. I'm talking about these other incidents outside of football. If you don't think he's putting himself in positions to look like a fool, that's on him. We can only talk about it. What are we supposed to do? If we see something like that, ignore it? No, it's Dwayne Haskins. Sure, he was a former Washington football player, but it has nothing to do with the shit that he puts himself in all the time. He sat out here and said, "Hey, bruh, please give me my $20,000 back. I gave you about $20,000 in merchandise. The invoice, take it, give the money back. If you don't want to do it, okay, cool, I'll be all right." But you can't do that and then expect people not to talk about it. You put yourself in that position to make
can't-
yourself look like a fool.
You can't ask for a refund for prostitution. This is very basic.
This is some Instagram girl that he's dealing with.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that was an Instagram
Some
girl. That's not his
side
wife,
piece
so.
kind
Perhaps
of
that's
situation,
why
it
the
looks
wife knocked his tooth out.
Hey, we can
Yeah.
draw as much conclusions. Yeah, I mean, look, we don't know, but
If you found out that your wife or husband spent 20 grand on a side piece, you get. I think you can knock a tooth out at that point.
Well, no, we're not going to advocate violence on this show, But
No, I know.
Yeah, but
I'm
Alex
being
is kidding.
facetious.
But I mean, I don't even know what to say to all that. This is just. stupidity.
It's just
at its
it's an
finest.
avalanche right now, so
Yeah.
it's just not.
He
good
is
news
such
for
a train wreck. This might be the biggest train wreck of a quarterback that we've ever had in Washington, and we've had some train wrecks.
In Washington,
Nah, it
Maybe,
really
yeah.
don't get worse than the RG3 saga right now. Like this is
Mm.
that was bad. Because we stayed with Rob for
5
4
years.
4 years.
4 years. So I mean, it don't get no worse than that. We got done with Dwayne after a year and a half. We just happened to hear his news a lot more still. So
Yeah, because this
Yeah.
is happening. This is a Steelers problem, not a Washington problem
Yeah.
at this point.
That's true. That's true. If you're just saying their time here, yeah, Rob was here for his entire
I
contract.
mean, the biggest
so.
controversy with quarterbacks in Washington may have been Sonny Jurgensen and Billy Kilmer at the same time.
Yeah, but that's a different kind of controversy. That was a funny old timey. I like Sonny. I like Billy.
And that's
thing.
before all of our times, but that's
Yeah.
off the top of my head. But because the stuff with Rob, I mean, the first couple years were fine. It was the end that went bad with him. But yeah, I think I defended Dwayne probably too long, but this is this really says something about his mental state or mental acuity or lack thereof.
It might.
Who
I
in the
was trying to
world
give him the
would
benefit
ask
of the
for-
doubt on a lot of that.
So
stuff.
you're going back behind the back of your wife to talk to random girls on Instagram, and you're
not just talk.
no right because you're giving them money and you're expecting services rendered in response, and so you're going to send them written messages asking for your money back.
Yeah.
I just sent it to the group chat.
I actually looked it up.
Okay.
It's a pretty bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. Also, for what it's worth, I don't think any kind of interaction with any woman is worth $20,000 like that.
No, certainly not.
If you got it, you got it. He got millions, so that ain't nothing to him.
Well, he ain't gonna have it for long with how he's acting.
20,000 to him is probably like 150 to us.
Yeah, I know.
Ain't
Can I
nothing.
read this tweet, Jamal? Jamal, do you mind if I read it on the
Hey,
air?
go for it.
So this is Jamal sent this to us in our private group chat on text message, and this is from Robert Liddell. Oh, this is Black Sports Online guy. Okay, Instagram model Vanessa Chantel. That name rings a bell for me, by the way. I think she's been in controversy before.
Trouble before?
Yeah, because that name rings a bell. But Instagram model Vanessa Chantel releases text messages from Steelers quarterback Dwayne Haskins asking her to give him back his $20,000 back he paid her for relations because he's married now and his wife just knocked his teeth out for going to the club.
His headlines are always OC.
Are they?
They're
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, it's good that you put it out there, but yeah, his tweets, his headlines are just incredible.
That's funny. Oh man.
Okay, guys, we should talk defensive ends and finish up the show. Position group breakdown time, if you are okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or,
Yeah.
I mean, we could laugh at Haskins all day, but all right. I did the write up on this, so I guess I'll take the lead. We're talking about our defensive end group. We're getting towards the end of the position group breakdown.
The only one left is special teams will be next week.
Nice. Okay, so
Which is perfect.
Defensive
for
end.
fans, so.
yeah, yep. Let me just start with departures. Yeah, and Jamal, I know you got to leave soon, but so we might lose you mid
It
show
was
here.
it's still a good conversation. It is what it is.
Yeah. Departures: Ryan Anderson, Ryan Kerrigan, and Casey Toolhill. 3 guys left from last year's team. Anderson, kind of a bust, let's be honest. Kerrigan,
Kind of.
all-time sack leader. And I don't think anyone will remember Casey Toolhill at all. So, not a big loss there. They've added William Bradley King, Jalen Jelks, Shaka Toney. And then, of course, returning, we have Sweat and Young, James Smith-Williams, and... Oh, wait. I put Casey Toolhill in twice. I guess he technically is still here, isn't he?
He's still here, yeah.
Yeah.
If I missed that, call that an editorial bust. But
Yeah,
Casey Touhill's on the roster.
Yeah. I think I made that mistake when I wrote it. So I think it's fair to say we all know Young and Sweat are going to be the starters, right? Like, this is not a shock. They are both teetering on being elite Pro Bowl level defensive ends. Young is getting the push to become like a defensive MVP at some point. If he gets there, we'll see. He didn't have an amazing year last year. He had a solid season, 7.5 sacks, 44 tackles. We also have learned since that he's been hurt. He was hurt most of last year and still playing. To me, the more interesting guy was Sweat last season, who really impressed. Like, I think he took a step up, partly probably because Young is there on the other side. Although Sweat played with Kerrigan the year before, and Kerrigan, despite slowing down in his age, he was a solid player the last couple of years still. But it's going to be very exciting. I think this is the group we're all the most excited about seeing is Young and Sweat and how much they grow this season. Because if they both become elite, that makes this whole defense elite. Two elite defensive ends matters more than any other position on the defense in my mind. It's more than a corner. It's more than a linebacker. If you have elite defensive end play, that can change your whole defense. Because then you're disrupting everything.
Jamal, you want to get your thoughts out? Because I know you got to
go. I know you got to leave, Jamal. So you want to get thoughts out about the starters?
Yeah. I actually, the more I think about it, the more optimistic I am about this duo, man. If you all remember, I did have issue with Montez Sweat coming out after his first year. I didn't think it was that impressive because it seemed like that tail end of the year he came on strong, but he was gone for majority of the season. I'm talking about his rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
He was gone for majority of the season, but he came on strong. So then all of a sudden people thought that he was all of a sudden this dog that he didn't show throughout the season. But the end of the year, those numbers piled up in terms of sacks and stuff. So I was hesitant on Sweat. And then in 2020 with Chase Young, he bust the door down. Like it was out there. He was making plays left and right. And I changed my tune, or I shouldn't even say change my tune, because I was just skeptical. But I was convinced that he was actually as good as a lot of people thought he could be. So salute to Sweat. And with that being said, you're talking about this combination of starters that is both. They're both young. They both have explosion that can be a threat for any left tackle, any right tackle. And the fact that they're agile enough where they can maneuver amongst the defensive line with the stunts or whatever. Or, they're going to have to find pass rush moves. I don't know to what extent. I would love to talk to somebody about that just to figure out what they're lacking in terms of just becoming a better player. Fingers crossed, we could talk to him. We could talk to him at camp. But I would love to know what they need to build on in terms of their pass rush moves. But just raw ability, both of them are just some dogs and they're young. And so, with that being said, this year I'm very optimistic. I saw a tweet today that said that they're personally setting their over/under total number for the two duo at 25. And
25 sacks.
Yeah, 25. And I'm like, that's attainable to have like a 13-12 type season for somebody, for both of those two. Or I have one in the double digits, like extraordinarily up there, like 15, and the other person with 10, something like that. Like, it can happen. And it's hard to say that, like, for me, it's hard to say Washington can be the best at something in the NFL, like knowing what I've known over these past couple of decades. It's hard to say that they can be the best at something, but this defensive line and these edge rushers, they're easily, I think, top 6 in the NFL, and they can easily compete to be that number one duo as young as they are. If it's not this year, it'll definitely be within the next upcoming years, but they're that good together. So when it comes to those two, I'm excited to see how it goes, man, for sure.
Yeah, those two guys, it's sort of a nuclear chain reaction a little bit, because together the sum of the parts is better than them individually, right? They're only going to help each other. You can't double team everybody. And yes, Montez Sweat was better than Chase Young last year, objectively, but he's also in his second year. So if you sort of fast forward to the point in time in which both these guys are fully developed NFL players, Who's going to be better? I don't know. I mean, Chase Young is certainly the higher profile player, but the point is, Jamal's right. I mean, the potential is there, barring a setback, barring injury, barring one of them leaving over contract, disputes or money or something. There's a potential that these two guys could be the best duo in the league. The potential, they're not there yet. The potential is there. 25 is a pretty big number for an over and under. I'd probably set it at 20 if it were me. But, I mean, regardless, it's not an unfair expectation to say Chase is going to be better than he was last year. He's a second-year player. He played for a year. He's healthy. Montez Sweat has already gotten better. Will keep getting better. It's not unreasonable to suggest that they could both be in double-digit sacks, which in turn is going to help the entire defense. So it's I don't know who's going to be better or whatever between the two, but you could have, like Alex said in his written piece, you could have a Dexter Manley, Charles Mann kind of situation here, hopefully without Dexter's problems. But you could have that level of production from these guys from years to come or for years to come. And that's a great thing.
Well, and, you bring up Manly Man. You could go a little more recent, too, with like an Orakpo Kerrigan when that duo was, and they really only had 1 or 2 years where they were really both good. Injuries kind of bit the team there. But like we've had a couple good duos over the years in terms of edge rushers. Manly Man and the Kerrigan Orakpo one, it does harken back to this in that who was really the better guy? Well, it depends on what you're looking at each year. Kerrigan. Like I think most people think of Manley as the better between him and Mann, but was he better or was everyone kind of getting pushed his direction by the other guy?
You could also go by
what we saw last year with Young and Sweat.
You could also go by length of time with the team, ability to stay in the NFL and keep white powder out of your nose. It goes towards the Charles Mann side. But if I think you put the two of them side by side, you'd probably say Dexter Manley was the bigger physical freak pass rusher than Mann maybe. But the Mann was able to stick around, and Dexter ruined his career. So that goes into it too. The point is, I think what we all hope here is that we have Montez Sweat and Chase Young on this team on the edge for years to come.
A decade.
Right.
Yes. I'm hoping we see him a decade plus.
Yeah, that'd be. And in terms, by the way, the depth, you read off some of these depth guys. They don't have very good depth behind them. I mean, they need to hope that some of these guys, pick whoever, Bradley King, Shaka Toney, who's the guy last year's, James Smith-Williams.
Yeah,
whoever.
Williams, who really didn't play a lot.
Yeah, hope
year.
that a couple of these guys end up being decent players so they can play a relief role. Because you can't have Sweat, and somebody's going to get hurt eventually. You have to have
someone will miss a game here.
Yeah, right. So
Jamal, I know you got to go. Good seeing you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes, sir. I'll check in with y'all next week, man.
All right.
Yeah, later. All right, Steve, why don't you and I, let's go through those guys a little bit more. Okay. I know it's not the most exciting, but last year Smith-Williams was, I think he's the real holdover. He played just 98 snaps on defense last year. Now that's because he was probably the 5th guy on that defensive depth chart at end, behind the Ryans, and so 98 is not a surprise for him there. He did play a lot of special teams, which is good, and he ended up with a half a sack. I think now he was a 7th-round pick. You're not really expecting him to step up and be that 3rd guy, but the problem is everybody we're talking about is a 7th-round pick in terms of these depth guys, which is kind of crazy.
You never know. I mean, Smith-Williams' advantage is that he's an intelligent guy.
Right.
This is, if you guys recall, this is the guy who had a job at, I think it was IBM maybe, lined up.
Yeah, he's known as one of those high IQ players. Yeah,
he's a very smart guy, and so that I think bodes well for his favor. His favor. If you go through some of these other guys, like Shaka Toney, pass rushing,
7th-round pick.
Yeah, 7th-round pick, pass rushing specialist. Call him a linebacker, call him a defensive end, call him whatever you want, but what he is a pass rushing specialist. And so
he's smaller than the rest of these guys too.
Yeah, so he's
230.
He's a speed athlete guy. Whether that translates to the NFL, remains to be seen. He comes from Penn State that has a history of pass rushers, so that bodes well in his favor.
Good defensive school. Yeah.
Yeah, Bradley King. I don't know what to think about him.
I mean, I went back. I wasn't high on him at first. I went back and watched some more of his like highlights and stuff, and I think I was a little more negative on him than I needed to be. But at the same time, like I've heard good things about him in training camp, or not training camp, but OTAs. It sounded like he had a good OTA session, but what does that translate to? Because again, 240th pick in the draft. Like
the odds are against him.
Odds would be against him, but literally we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys who are competing for these backup spots, and all 5 were drafted in the 7th round.
The bottom line
is
the team needs to hope that 1 or 2 of these guys are actual NFL players. And
right.
If they could have that, that's probably realistically all they need at defensive end.
Yeah.
At the defensive end / pass rushing specialty, wherever they line up, you have the 2 guys at the top, and then if you have a couple backups who can be decent NFL players, that's probably all they need.
Right.
And we don't know who it is of these 4 guys between Smith Williams, Bradley King, Shaka Toney, and Casey Toohill, maybe, I guess.
Yeah.
Hopefully a couple of them can play.
Smith Williams and Toohill, who were both here last year, mostly special teamers. And I think that you're going to have to embrace that whoever these guys are, that's where they're going to...
of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The better question in my mind is, with the depth you have at the interior, there's always been some talk about maybe kicking Allen out to defensive end time to time, and maybe that's kind of how they go about doing things. But,
I don't know.
It's not the worst idea.
It's not a great idea. He's not really an explosive pass rusher. I think he would maybe do that on running downs, second and short, maybe that kind of thing. Because I don't think you put Allen out there for him to be an explosive edge rusher.
You're not doing that on third down for a clutch play.
No.
But the thing is, you have 2-star guys who are gonna. If you're in any third down situation and Sweat and Young are not on the field, you're not doing it right.
Look, all of the guys of Allen, Payne, and Settle have all lined up all over the place, and Ioannidis too. But to the lesser extent Ioannidis. But Allen, Payne, and Settle have all lined up in almost every position along the defensive line. I think Payne and Settle are probably more interior oriented than Allen. So I think it's reasonable to say we can expect these guys to mix it up. Like, you're not. Chase Young's too good to just leave him in one spot all the time. They're going to move him around a little bit too.
Right. One of his best plays I remember last year was they basically put him at middle linebacker and had him blitz.
Yeah, right. So they're going to do stuff like that, and so it's not going to be a static environment necessarily. I think what we can take from this group is they have the starters. The depth is unknown. Mm-hmm. Let's hope and pray a couple of these 7th round picks can actually play football.
I just need one guy to be able to come in as a reliever from time to time. That's it.
Yeah.
And
because we didn't really see James Smith Williams at all last year. Right. Basically, we don't know if he can play. I tend to think he's probably going to get the scheme and all that stuff because he's a smart guy. But can he play? Who knows?
Yeah, and can they be space eaters? Like, what we need to know what they can do. Like we were talking about Shaka Toney. Everything you see from him is he's just going to rush the edge, and he's got good burst, he's got good speed. He's smaller, like he could be a fun little edge rushing piece, but I don't think he's going to be that 5-tool type where he can also stop the run.
I think he's a pass rushing specialist. He's Junior Gillette in terms of hopefully not Junior Gillette's mentality, because Junior Gillette is nuts. But in terms of playing, I think that's what he is.
Yeah, I think so too. That'll be something to watch in preseason. Really, is what those guys do. I'm not worried about the stars in preseason.
No.
I think that kind of sums up the defensive ends, though, in pretty simply.
Yeah,
don't worry about the stars.
Well, yeah, you need to hope they're going to develop. Because we're all excited about Chase Young and all that, but there's also been many players who don't take the next step. So I don't think that'll be him. We have every indication he's going to be great, but we need to see him continue to progress. Don't crown him yet, as the old saying goes. And we need to see
Right,
both of
right.
those guys grow and get better.
I mean, where they both were statistically is they are above average ends statistically. Their ceiling is much higher.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're at.
Will they get there?
We know where their floor is, and it's above average.
Will they get there? We'll see. Hopefully so. We'll see.
Hopefully both do.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that should wrap it up on defensive ends, and I think that wraps it up on another week's of Hogsty fun. Next week, I will be reporting from my Woodland estate, so I'll be up there.
What you need to say is the Hogsty's upstate New York offices.
The upstate New York office, but we have multiple upstate New York offices thanks to our buddy Chris, who's also upstate.
True,
So,
but
yeah.
the public doesn't need to know that he's not in the regular Hogsty upstate offices.
That's true. That's true, too.
Except you just blew it. You just disclosed that fact.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, anyway, so I'll be upstate for the next 2 shows, and then I'll be back down and going to training camps and things like that, hopefully. So look forward to that. I'm excited to go out to Ashburn if we can get approved. But stay tuned and we'll find out.
Dwayne, dump
Later,
that girl.
guys. Yeah, that's a train wreck, right?
Oh, God. Sheesh. No, but it's like I am a beta male,